We promised you another podcast before the Newcastle match, and here we are. But before we discuss that game, we just take on one or two questions from our subscribers. Frankie, the season ticket renewal news came out. So last week it was confirmed on Thursday that the concession discount was reinstated. But this week they've released how to renew or when to renew. And I'm going to read out from what the club have said because I think that's fair. It says for the 2025-2026 men's season ticket holders who renew before the 31st of March will also benefit from an exclusive seat relocation window, as well as the ability to buy up to 2 additional season tickets for friends and family before we offer vacant seats to our waiting list. Additionally, early renewers will gain 3 loyalty points. Would you like to start with the additional season tickets or the loyalty points?
Let's go with the additional season tickets.
Well, what do you make of it? I want your honest opinion. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Gio, I'm going to be totally honest here. And I have a season ticket, all because at the very beginning, when we was in the, what was it called? The booking venue, whatever they called it, that was in Stratford. Somebody who, at that last season, I never had a season ticket for one reason or another. I never had a season ticket. The only way I got one for that first season was that somebody I knew had a season ticket, brought me along and signed me up. And I never really agreed with it, but I benefited from it. So it's difficult. Similar scenario this time round. I've been desperately trying to get Albie a season ticket. He hasn't. I always have to buy him an extra one, or somebody in our group who doesn't go has his ticket. He has their ticket. So I'm going to benefit again. But it ain't right, is it? No. I should never have been able, without a season ticket, to just rock up and buy one of the cheapest season tickets in that stadium when I wasn't a season ticket holder previously. And this one may be a little bit different because I tried last year and they said Albie wasn't on the waiting list. So I had to pay my £10 and I was waiting until this year. However, I can skip those people who have paid their £10 now and chuck Albie in next to me, and I'm going to benefit from that. So, yeah, I mean, look, when you're on the other side of it, it ain't great. And do I agree with it? Not really, but I'm going to benefit from it twice. So
It's crap. It's absolute bollocks. That's what it is. It's bribery. It is bribing people to renew their season ticket immediately. It's blackmail as well. More so the loyalty points, but the skipping the queue thing. I think if there wasn't a waiting list, or the waiting list was free, even then I'm not comfortable with it, but it's not the end of the world. But there are people who've paid 10 quid and not been offered a season ticket. And now it comes down to a case of, well, do you know a season ticket holder? Because if you do, get in touch with them, see if they can renew early, and then they can get you in ASAP. So actually, why are we charging people 10 quid to go on the waiting list then if, like you said, for the second time now, we're offering queue jumps? And Gonzo benefited from the queue jump we've never hit. I remember the waiting list came out. I was one of the sad people that signed up and paid my tenner within minutes of it going live on the website. But I got to the reservation centre on day one for new season ticket holders. But as Frankie said, as part of the package, it was you can add 2 additional season ticket holders if you want. Gonzo had his appointment, but it wasn't until like 3-4 days after mine. So I was like, well, you come with me then, and we'll get you and your son a season ticket, and we've got 3 tickets together. So we benefit. But Gonzo was on the waiting list. His appointment was just further down the line. But he jumped ahead of other people too. In this situation, like I said, it's just blackmail. That's what it is. And there are people still on that waiting list. Sometimes I naively think there's no one on the waiting list. I think it's a bit of a thing. I know Brady's always said there's tens of thousands of people. I think, really? Is there? But when we did the podcast last week and we spoke about the stadium, there was somebody in the comment section said, I've been on the waiting list and I've not got a ticket yet, and I want one. I said, well, ring them up and you might be able to get one. They said I did, but they still didn't give me anything. That person has paid 10 quid, has waited for more than an entire season, at least. I don't know how long for. They didn't clarify. They shouldn't really need to wait for their opportunity to get a season ticket. And it now comes down to a case of, do you know an existing season ticket holder? And if yes, can you put pressure on them to renew before the end of March, please? Because if they do, they'll be able to take you in. But if they don't, sorry, you don't get that perk of a season ticket. It's absolute. Honestly, the club did something right last week by reinstating a concession. Brilliant. Credit for that. And I stand by giving them credit for that, fixing their mistake. But this is just, it's one step forward, two steps back with this lot all the time, every single time. And when the news come out last week, everybody had suspicions. You said to me, it's because the football's crap. That's why the concessions are back in. Because who else is going to get it? And there was a bit in this a statement last week. It says, "Oh, we're going to have to renew this going forward." I thought that's not a good sign when they're saying, "Right, we're putting them back in. However, we need to renew the discounts." I think that's a warning. And then this comes out. Now, this financially doesn't impact anyone per se, unless you paid a tenner and you don't get a season ticket. Then I'd be asking for your money back. But the loyalty point things as well, Frankie. Am I right in thinking it's just blackmail?
Yeah, and 3 points ain't going to make no difference to anyone either, Gio. So
I think it does for those at the top.
At the top, probably will.
Yeah.
For those people who are really, battling to try, where it will come into play is Bournemouth away next season.
Yeah.
If you can jump in, that might be the difference between you getting a ticket to Bournemouth away and not. Look, you say it doesn't affect people financially. It does, because some people, Gio, put money away every single month until they're renewed.
That's true. That's true.
Some people don't have the means to just one lump sum and go, or don't have a credit card they can chuck it on or whatever. And now all of a sudden they'll be looking at it thinking, oh, I've got to jump in and try and do this, and it's earlier than I would have liked, and I haven't put enough money aside for it yet. So it does affect people. It does. And again, that's a typical attitude of privileged people who don't understand that that's what some people do, who don't understand that they can't just grab, £1,000, 1,500 quid, whatever it is for their season tickets. And they do actually have to every single month think, I've got to put that amount away, and I've got to do that religiously. So when my season ticket renewal comes around, I can afford it. So it puts pressure on people who are really going to feel that pressure, and that's not nice. And that waiting list, mate, I wonder how many people are on that waiting list who, like me, will have paid previous seasons and now have no interest of having a season ticket, even if they were offered one. I bet that list is full of people, legacy people, who initially paid it thinking, I'll get one next season, but next season comes around, the circumstances have changed, and even if they were offered one, they couldn't uptake one. I bet that list is full of people like that.
Yeah, and what you speak about, the financial impact, it's those people that have got a gun to their head to join early, really, because when you think about it, it's the people at the very top of the loyalty points table, those that go home and away every single game. They've been to all around Europe supporting us. They're there Monday night away to Newcastle. They're the ones that are up there supporting us. They're the ones that have got the most loyalty points because they go to every single game. They've got now to stump up their season ticket money by the end of March. And there's still 2 months of the season to go. And that's a group of people that will be home and away in April, home and away in May as well. And it's a case of, well, actually, can you stump up your cash immediately? And there's no notice. We've got 3 weeks notice some people got 3 weeks notice to try and maybe scrape together that additional few £100 that they haven't quite got yet ready to. And like you said, it just shows how detached they are from reality. And I appreciate a lot of people will be listening to this thinking it's full outrage or whatever. It doesn't concern them. It might be a case of, I'm all right, Jack, but it doesn't mean you can't be annoyed. Hell, Frankie just sat here and admitted he's going to benefit from this. He doesn't agree with it, but he's going to benefit. And so he should. If he's not putting it in place, he's not agreeing with it, but there's no point cutting your nose off to spite your face, really, which is, well, I'm not going to do it because I don't believe in it, but I could get my son a season ticket, but I'm not going to do it. And I just think it's just unnecessary from the club and just lacking understanding of hardship that a lot of people are going through at the minute. And it almost feels like a punishment to some extent that, right, we've got to give you that concessions back because of everyone's been moaning about all season. Here you go, but we're going to hit you in a different way. It's the equivalent of that kid at school. You'd go to the party, be playing football. It wouldn't be going his way, pick up the ball and go home. And so, no, none of you are getting to play football. The ball's mine. I'm off home. So you lot can stand there. You're not getting to play football. And it feels a bit like that from Baroness Brady. That's a case of, we'll have your concessions, but I'm going to chuck in this deadline that forces you all to join up sooner than you want to. And if you can't, tough luck. 3 loyalty points is mental as well, by the way. That's the equivalent of going to Newcastle away on a Monday night 3 times. Away game is 1 point. 3 loyalty points is quite a lot, to be honest. And it forces people to renew now, because can you afford to not renew now? Not really. Like you said, if you want to go, but if West Ham got to a cup final next season, this 3 points could be quite significant to determine, because, say you get 25,000 tickets, but we've got 50,000 season ticket holders. How do you determine them? Well, it comes down to loyalty points, probably. And those that renew now will possibly be ahead of those that didn't renew now. I'm not very comfortable with it, and I don't like it at all. Anything you want to say about the season tickets before we move on?
No, not really. But like I say, just anyone who's sort of not at that top tier of those points, just don't think that those 3 points are going to make a difference to you, because 3 points to me, I get my season tickets through other means. Away tickets through other means. I haven't got loyalty points. I've probably got 9 loyalty points. That 3 ain't going to make a blind bit of difference to me. So I guess it's also not falling for the trap that it will make you have any more opportunity if you're sort of in that 5 to 15 sort of bracket. I don't think it's going to make too much difference. So I probably wouldn't rush and put pressure on yourself for the sake of those 3 points. Like you said, the people who need to do it are those people always at the top and want to get those really difficult ones that are hard to get.
Yeah, and you might as well rename it, because this isn't loyalty. This is rewarding financial circumstances. It's not rewarding. Loyalty is going to the away games.
That's what West Ham do now, mate. West Ham reward financial circumstances all the time.
Yeah.
Well,
like you said, Bournemouth, hospitality, a lot will have tickets, even though that might be the only game to go to. Yeah, we'll find an away ticket for you. Might as well rename it, because loyalty is rewarding those that go week in, week out, and forcing them to stump up cash with 3 weeks' notice.
And like you said, there are some people, right, who do go every single game, but it doesn't mean that they're well off.
Yeah.
Some people literally live for West Ham, and every penny that they earn, they put it into West Ham. And that extra little, financial push is going to be difficult for them. People probably say, but if they're going home and away and traveling the country, well, they must be doing all right for themselves anyway. I can assure you there's some people who literally spend every single penny that they earn on West Ham, and it is just their life. And, that is going to be a needless cost that they just really could do without,
Right, we're going to dive into one. We'll take 1 or 2 questions before we get Frankie's thoughts on the Newcastle game. This one is from Lim, who says, amongst Crystal Palace, Spurs, Man United, West Ham, and Everton, so that little mini league we're in now, which do you think will end up top and which one will be bottom?
Oh, I'm going to go with Palace bottom.
Ooh.
I'm going with Palace bottom. I'm going West Ham top.
I'm going to go Palace top.
They were rubbish against Millwall. Terrible. They ain't that good.
I know they've got an injury to Mateta, but they're in good form at the minute. And they're top at the moment. So I'll go Palace top, and I will say Spurs bottom.
You think?
They're crap at the minute, Frankie. They're crap.
Palace didn't look good against Millwall. I know it's a different game, and I know it's different circumstances and everything else, but I thought Millwall had their number until the sending off.
Well, Spurs got beat by AZ Alkmaar, who we beat.
Very true.
It's not for everyone, is it? Winning away to AZ Alkmaar. And do you know something? I think our Conference League wins actually looking better post. When we won it, people dismissed it quite easily, but there's been a lot of results and the way that tournament's gone and such like afterwards. You think actually it wasn't as easy as I think a lot of people. It was perhaps made on. He also said, would Potter be able to get the best out of players this season when there is nothing to fight for? How can he motivate the players in this situation?
Yeah, I think that is. We've discussed that a little bit before, and basically our season's now made up of little micro games. And the one that the first one that we've had was the Arsenal game, and we've ended up coming out on top of that. So there'll be a few more of them, a few more London derbies, and a few games that we really want to get a result for. I think the motivation all comes from, look, if you want to be part of my plans for next season, you've got to show me what you're made of now. And there's a transfer window coming up in the summer, and summer you will be shipped out if you're not quite at the level that I need you to be. So I guess that's where the motivation comes from, and it is something that he's got to manage. It is hard when there isn't anything crucially riding on your season, and there isn't any like major reward at the end of it. But really, what we're looking for is getting in a good place. We're looking at just doing the right things, playing in the right way, just starting to have these little micro wins, if you like. And I think when Big Sam, for all of Big Sam's faults, he used to break the sort of league down into little sort of 3 or 4 match sprints, and he'd give a target for those little chunks of the fixtures, and that's the way to do it. Really, you give yourself a little target for over the next 4 weeks and see how you get on. And the competitive nature of footballers really should shine through with that. Really,
every player's got different motivation as well. I think what Frankie said about playing for your future at West Ham is applicable to Aaron Cresswell, James Ward-Prowse. I think certain players fall into that. All the scars, not that he's getting shipped out, but just to stay in the team. Then there's other players, Wan-Bissaka and Jared Bowen. You've now got Thomas Tuchel going in as England manager. You want in that England squad, you better show up. And there's 1 or 2 players that want to leave West Ham. And I'm assuming, this is my opinion is that Mohamed Kudus and Edson Alvarez perhaps might fancy a summer move away to a club playing European football. Well, if you want that, go earn it. Go out there, do well for West Ham between now and the end of the season, and earn your move away. Get that club that's looking at you interested. Salah and Ferguson, do they want to be at West Ham next season? Do they want us to fork out the money for them? They've got to show it between now and the end of the season. So I think there's an argument for nearly every player in the team as to why they've got something to play for personally as well as collectively as a team. And lastly, from the questions, Frankie, this one's from Milo. It's quite a long one, but it's a good one. Says, is the early attacking cross becoming an endangered species because it's considered too risky and more likely to lose possession rather than creating a chance? So often I see us in a great position to whip across him, but we choose to pass it back and around instead of looking to create a chance. Too many managers are trying to be like Pep. It's the same with passing out from the back. The Pep-style possession at all costs football can be quite dull to watch, and this early attacking cross is disappearing from the game, like a goalie's long high kick. It's frustrating how often we see this. Crosses win matches.
Yeah, I am a big fan of direct football, and that's not long ball. But I'm a big fan of direct football. A good example of that would be the season where we had Dean Ashton when he was on fire. If you go and watch some of those games that we used to play, it would be play forward, 3 passes, you're in the opponent's box and you're having a shot at goal. That's direct football. It isn't lump it long, hit high balls up to a lone striker. I think, though, one thing that's been missed through what's been said there is that we don't really have typical old-fashioned centre forwards to hit anymore. And if Liverpool was just going to ping early crosses into the box, no one's going to get on the end of them. If you've got, some big lumpy centre halves against, Diaz, they're just going to lap it up all day long. In fact, it would play into their hands. But if you do have someone who plays a little bit more like someone who would benefit from that, and they probably should do it more, would be Ipswich, because I think the lap would lap that sort of cross up. So it really does depend on what centre forward you've got, and unfortunately that traditional type of centre forward is a little bit of a dying breed. They're just not out there anymore. But I don't like Pep football. I actually think that also plays into why stadiums are a lot quieter these days, because it is a slower paced, more possession based football that isn't as exciting to watch. And no one can tell me, Gio, that football's progressed in a positive way for me. I don't like pet football. I don't like modern football. And when I watch Premier League years and something like that, I sit back and go, wow, weren't football more exciting before? And you start sounding like getting too old, and you used to listen to your parents who used to say, oh, your modern football's a load of rubbish, or your modern music's a load of rubbish, or whatever. They always think their day was better. Well, I'm now falling into that category where I think my day was better than the modern day of football. So yeah, it's a shame because I'm a big fan of that way of playing football, but unfortunately it's just how it is now.
I can understand the poster's frustration because there's been times where I've wanted to see us cross it more, especially when Souček's in the box. You know, when Souček's in there and we don't cross him, like, got one of the best attackers aerially in the Premier League there, and waiting putting the ball in for him to try and get his head on it. And I understand what you're saying about the lack of strikers. I agree with that. But then when Souček's in there, I think that is your focal point. I think Creswell in the last couple of games is showing that he can whip in an early cross low and cause drama in the 18-yard box. But I think it's a different style of football. I think there's set pieces is one of the areas which showcase that because quite a while the top managers used to go short quite a lot. They went short. They refused to cross it for the reasons given. It was seen as a waste of an opportunity. But now they've got set piece coaches and stuff like that. It's brought crossing back in from corners, whereas we went through this period, it was like play it short and start doing your short passes again. But now let's create a strategy. Let's come up with something that gets a centre back on the end of it. And it's working to some extent. For certain clubs, it's certainly working. I think I'm surprised more hasn't been made of set piece coaches this season. I thought it was going to take off a little bit where every club had their own set piece coach, and they probably do to some extent. But I think a lot of clubs have it within their coaching staff rather than one specialist coach, like Aston Villa with McPhee, for example. His job is set piece. You do the set pieces, and if something goes great, you get the credit. But if something goes tits up, you're also getting a ball looking as well. And I'm surprised that we've never had one. West Ham, I know under Moyes, it was like, oh, that guy's in, like Nolan's in charge of set pieces, but he's not a set piece coach, so is he? He was also the coach for other things. He wasn't just set pieces, and I'm surprised it's not become more and more of a thing in today's game. Maybe next season we'll see West Ham have a set piece coach that only does corners and free kicks, etc. Because there are a lot of games now that are decided by that one moment from a set piece. Aston Villa in the Champions League just the other night, ball come in, Mings wins at the back post. Everyone's expecting him to go for goal or put him into the 6-yarder. He doesn't. He heads it backwards to the penalty spot. And there's Morgan Rogers and Leon Bailey both unmarked, ready to hit it. And bang, Bailey hit it. Goal, 1-0. This is away in the Champions League. What a pivotal goal that is. And it comes down to a set-piece coach at the end of the day. Right, Frankie, Newcastle, Monday night. How are you feeling?
It's going to be a good game. Good test for us, I think. Good test. What we spoke about earlier on with where does the motivation come from? That's one of them games where Potter's got to find that motivation. They've got stuff to play for. We haven't, but we've still got to get on the same sort of level as they are. So it's going to be a real test, and I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest.
Is there any changes you'd make? We've seen the same starting 11 2 weeks on the bounce. We've got 2 wins, but Ferguson is a little bit fitter. Lucas Paqueta is now back. Soufal's back as well, if you wish to include him. Would you like to see any changes, or would you go with the same 11 again?
It's hard, isn't it, to change a team that's won back-to-back games. It would be quite difficult to drop somebody and maybe a little bit unfair. But it's a different game, and I think we need more. And because we need more, I think that a change may be necessary. I'd like to see Paqueta come back in because I feel like we need an extra midfielder in there to try and, like we said, creativity's been lacking a little bit. And he's the man who can bring that. I certainly wouldn't be seeing Soufal coming back in, and Ferguson wouldn't be for me in this one. So yeah, Paqueta's probably the only change that I would make.
Well, who are you going to drop then? I want to know.
Well, it's tough, isn't it, again? But and I know the last 2 games, that sort of midfield three have done all right. But, you know, it's just too, it's overkill for me. And I think we can bring one of those out and hopefully try and get on the front foot a little bit more and just have another attacking player a bit further forward. So,
well, you know one way to ask now, don't you?
go on, mate.
Which one?
Not my job, is it, Gio?
I know you say this. I know you say this,
but ain't my job, is it?
But you
Shall
must.
shall I explain why I say that, Gio? Because I haven't sat there and watched Newcastle enough to know what their midfielders are like. So it's very hard for me to say, oh, that's going to be their midfield. That's who's going to play in their midfield. And that's why I want to keep Souček in, because he's going to have a battle against him. Or, do you know what I mean? So I don't know enough to say.
It'll be Bruno, Tonali and Joelinton. There you go. That's your
there you go. And so that does confirm to me that you want Paqueta in there, because it's always a good battle between the 2 Brazilians in there. And there's always a little bit of spice that sort of brings. So that confirms that Paqueta comes in, but I'll let the man who's paid millions of pounds make the decision on who he's going to change it for.
So the lineup comes out. The lineup comes out. Alvarez is the one dropped. Are you happy?
Yeah, it's all right.
If Souček is the one dropped, you're happy?
Yeah, it's all right.
Ward-Prowse is the one dropped. You're happy?
That's fine. Okay, if that's what the manager sees and that's what he wants, and then we go and win the game, great. If he loses, then I'll have him off for making the wrong decision, and I'll say,
I get that. I get it. I get what you're saying. Right then, score prediction time. Obviously, they've got the Carabao Cup on Sunday, haven't they? It's like the following one.
This is going to be one of them old Newcastle don't want to travel to London ones, Gio. They'll be looking at this poxy Monday night, go into that London stadium, cup final just around the corner. They could just do without it. And because of that, they're going to come there. They've got a few players missing as well. They're going to come right unstuck, and we're going to beat them 3-0.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That was one ballsy prediction, Frankie. I do hope you're correct. And hopefully we'll see how what midfielder Potter drops. So hopefully you're correct about your score prediction. Right, guys, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for your questions. You got any questions for next week's episode? You know where to leave them in the comments underneath this video. But if you've enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it by clicking thumbs up before you disappear. Subscribe. You have much chat myself and Frankie. Catch you in a bit.